In summer 2013, Dr. Ulrich Haegele, lecturer at the Institute for Media Studies at the Eberhard Karls University Tübingen in Germany, offered a project about sound and video art. It should bring together the two equal elements, video and audio, in the Video Sonic project. In collaboration with Bernd Haussmann's studio, 9 students of the institute produced the soundtracks for mute video clips the artist had recorded.
It was just, hey, what happens if somebody else looks at my pictures, and how does that person make sense of what he or she sees?
Bernd Haussmann is a German-born artist who is currently living and working in Massachusetts and Maine on the east coast of the United States.
Focusing on art professionally for 30 or so years.
So I took the liberty of taking videos after being a serious painter for so many years, because I felt it adds to my vocabulary.
It adds to my means of expression.
After studying art in Germany, Bernd Haussmann moved to the US in 1989. In addition to painting, he is also very engaged in photography and video art.
Video seemed a natural thing, like photography, that there's a step in between, because I also do photography. And photography seems to be the more logical move, right? So painting, you have the still image within a frame, and photography, you pick an image within a frame, and then video is moving pictures, right? I'm doing video, but when you look at my videos, you will see that they are all very much like a painter would approach a painting, or a photographer would approach an image. They're still within a frame, and within that frame everything happens. So I set up the camera and on a tripod, and I carefully choose the frame, and then within that frame I let things happen.
And that is how the Video Sonic project came into being.
I was curious how I can be a subtle guide by exposing you and your fellow students at the Media Institute, expose them to visuals, and everybody has something in mind when they see something, right?
The students picked from a range of videos the artist had provided, some more abstract than others, yet they had all nature as a common motif.
I paint and I go out into nature. Art is nature and nature is art, so even that I have to rephrase that, yeah. Stimulates and informs the other.
Inspired by the visuals, the students created and recorded individual soundtracks.
Just a very, very minimal framework that I set up here with Ulrich Haegele. Within that very open framework, you're free, you're creative, you're asked to create something that you like. And the starting point is the visual. For me, it's very simple. Sound creates pictures.
Pictures create more pictures. But pictures can also create sound. Sound seems to be almost more direct than the visuals. The sound waves seem to be able to access more immediately and probably deeper into our mind and being than visuals. And immediately when you see a pond and rain falling on a pond, you hear it, even though the sound might not be on that video. That's the obvious, right? And then you think, all right, so there's rain falling on water, which I think in itself is a beautiful picture. But then, like a good painting, I feel there should be multiple dimensions of interpretation and exploration.
Therefore, the sound was added to the visuals.
This quiet sound. When you think of John Cage, the great artist, he created the song 4 minutes 33 seconds, I believe, right? That is entirely about quiet. And he calls it a sound piece. But he's just sitting at the piano, you know, that famous, it's one of the most famous pieces, and I think it's so good because, first of all, it gives us the freedom of quiet. It gives us quiet, and it allows us to listen within. And I think that's the most important thing that sound can do.
The sound experience, which I prefer to all others, is the experience of silence. And the silence almost everywhere in the world now is traffic.
Understanding the quiet is the key to understand sound or music, which is just one form of sound.
When I talk about music, it finally comes to people's minds that I'm talking about sound that doesn't mean anything.
Now, this is probably not very satisfying for a sound artist.
Thinking that for something to just be a sound is to be useless. Whereas I love sounds, just as they are.
She accepted the sound, and every sound, the car construction, the bird, he wouldn't distinguish. There were not good sounds and bad sounds.
I have the feeling that sound is acting, and I love the activity of sound. What it does is it gets louder and quieter, and it gets higher and lower, and it gets longer and shorter.
Every sound created something in his mind, like any good piece of art.
What does this mean for art?
Shadows, figures, faces. 7,138 million people live on planet Earth.
There's probably too many images out in this world. There's too many visuals. There's too much sound, and we're oversaturated. And it's probably true when people say that it makes it so much more difficult for art, for visual art, moving pictures or still pictures.
We're so focusing on our eyes that ultimately what we really want to do is close our eyes and listen within and see the pictures inside.
One of the key things for all my art is to engage the viewer, to have the viewer become an active participant. So as much as you're a creator, you're also a participator, right, in this project. I like the idea of you picking, and you guys all have picked something that spoke to you, and then you make something out of it. But beyond that, and foremost, I think art is about learning something new.
So for me, art often is a byproduct of the experience.
Because you have made an experience throughout that project. I have, and I think that's the most valuable part.